Hello and welcome to a new episode of Las Platicas. And this Las Platicas is 2.0. Take it away, Kristen.
It's true. Welcome to Las Platicas, a show hosted by Comadres y Comics, where we meet with creators and friends to talk about upcoming projects, events, and all around awesome news in Latinx comic community. Today, we have the pleasure of once again having Henry Barajas with us. You may remember Henry from our inaugural episode. Can you believe it? Inaugural, the very first episode of Las Platicas, where he shared with us his book that he created, Voz de M.A.Y.O, Tata Rambo, a comic book that he created to tell the life story of his great-grandfather, Ramon Jaurigue. Henry has also contributed to anthologies that benefit mass shooting, Route 91 victims, and the Southern Poverty Law Center, such as Where We Live and The Good Fight. Today, Henry is here to talk to us about his newest project, Helm Greycastle, a new Latinx fantasy. Welcome back, Henry.
Hey, everyone. Hey.
It's
so nice to see you.
It is nice to see you. It's a little different this time. Did we see you in person the first time? I don't even remember.
I went to Sarah's house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Sarah spilled beer everywhere.
That's right. that taster broke, remember?
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's an unlocked memory.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I researched what episode you were on that I realized it was the very first episode, and that was when we brainstormed the grand idea of actually having an ancillary show to our main podcast. So it all stemmed from your greatness, Henry.
I am honored, and I'm happy to be back.
Yes. And for those of you guys who do not know, Las Platicas started off as an audio format and evolved into what we have now, which is our YouTube channel. And you, Henry, you inspired it. Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
Hey, I try to inspire people.
I love
it. So when Henry came the first time, as he mentioned, we did have Hora de la Cervecita, even though it wasn't called that back then. And so to honor that and that tradition, he's drinking a beer today.
Yes.
And so is Sarah. So Henry, why don't you just tell our listeners what you're drinking, because it's a very unique named beer.
Yeah, so I am a huge 90s, 80s wrestling fan, anything before like 2007. So I have fallen into a hole of wrestling Instagram clips where I'm watching old wrestling, problematic, racist, sexist, horrible wrestling. And there was a self-proclaimed redneck by the name of Stone Cold Steve Austin. I used to talk something like this. Hey, we drink beer and he'd stomp a mud hole in your ass. And it was just like always ass with him. He just wanted to do something to everyone's ass. And he created a beer called Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company. And I was at Ralph's and I was looking at beer and I wanted to get the Topo Chico hard seltzer.
Oh.
But I saw this and I had to grab it out of nostalgia for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Nice. El Segundo Brewing Company actually is in the South Bay here where I live. And so we've actually been there and had it on tap, and it's so good.
Oh, wow.
I really like it.
No, I mean, it's very smooth. It's not like as pungent as an IPA normally is for me. So I'm not an IPA guy. So I took a chance in honor of Stone Cold, and it's actually pretty good.
Nice. And Sarah, what are you drinking?
Well, I am drinking this awesome Crowns and Hops Brewing Company beer. It's called Black Joy. It's a series in the BPLB, that's Black People Love Beer artist series. And the art is done by a female, I believe she's from New York. I'll talk more about it on the podcast episode, but the art is just sensational. Like, it's amazing. It is a hazy Indian pale ale and it's 6.5. And I'm not gonna lie, I've already had this because I bought a 4-pack, and it is so good. So good, in fact, that I grabbed this beer that is supposed to be for La Hora de la Cervecita, and I'm gonna replace it with another 4-pack because So I'm very excited. So I'm gonna open my beer.
Nice.
It's so you that you're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna drink this beer so I can buy more.
Yes. That is absolutely 100% correct.
That's funny. So, Henry, as we already mentioned to our listeners, you were our very first Las Platicas guest back in, get this, September 2018.
Wow.
Wow.
Doesn't that seem like so long ago when you say it out loud? But when
It's-
I think about it, it just feels like it was literally like the other day.
Yeah. No, it does not feel like a long time. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah. So we've
Isn't that
all
nice?
aged 3 years and more over 2020. But can you just tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since then?
Well, so that was 2018, you said?
Yes.
2019, La Voz de M.A.Y.O came out in November. I was able to debut it in my hometown, Tucson, Arizona, with Gonzo.
That's right.
It was a cool victory lap. I flew in. I rented a car off I flew into Tucson International, and if you ever have the fortune of being at Tucson International, it's the smallest, most efficient, quiet, clean airport you will have ever been to. It's an international
Dang, they
airport.
paying you? They better
No.
pay you for that. Good plug.
I know, right? It's very easy to get in and out. It's the most chill airport. I go down. I went to rent a car. The guy gave me a Mustang, a 2019 Mustang.
Wow.
And I got to drive by my hometown, my home neighborhood where I lived in a trailer and in a convertible with a bag, a trunk full of my books. And it's thanks to you three and the people listening and everyone that I got to experience that. So I always try to remember where I come from as I was passing the trailer park. So I've been a very fortunate person where I get to still work in the comic book industry. I still work at Top Cow Productions. I celebrated my 5-year anniversary there.
Oh, congratulations.
During WonderCon.
Nice.
That's the longest job I've ever held. A lot of people say that's pretty sad. But, I say, whatever, boss. You still let me come in. So this morning I got to talk to Stephen Sejic, who's doing Sunstone Volume 7, Mercy. I'm very excited for that. As a hand up to Gonzo, I made sure that Top Cow, that we, really considered bringing La Mano del Destino on as a series because it's 7 issues done. He already did the translation. It's an amazing product, amazing story, an incredible feat for a comic book artist to do. So, I'm very honored that Gonzo put his dream on hold to make mine possible, and I was able to help him bring it to a mass distribution of Image Comics. So very, very, very grateful for that. And I'm trying to do my best to keep honoring that tradition of bringing in Latinx comics creators into this industry, because I think the comic book industry is a horrible, racist industry and sexist industry. And I'm doing my best to be a positive force and impact for Black, Native American, Asians, Latinx, literally every kind of race and non-binary creator, because it's a very difficult industry to break into and a very difficult industry to stay in. So I'm very lucky that I have retail partners at Heidi Ho, who has been such a huge support for me. And and I don't know if you ordered in on Helm Greycastle, and I'm sure you did. I'm very lucky. And one of the things we learned during the pandemic is California is the largest spot, the largest state, the biggest business is done in comics is done in California. So when California shut down, the comic book industry shut down with it. Right. And I think that's a real telling and thing about how this state makes up for a large percentage of comics that are being sold. So I'm lucky to be in a city where there's multiple comic book stores still around, and they all were, a lot of them were very supportive of Helm, and I'm looking forward to bringing that story to light.
That is so awesome.
Nice.
I love
Mhm.
how you're holding the door open for other creators and friends,
Yeah.
because we got to help each other out. You know, there's a lot of us out there that we didn't even know at the beginning of starting this podcast, knew that they were out there. Now that we found them, we just love it. It's like a big family. It's awesome.
It really is.
Please tell our listeners about your new book, Helm Greycastle. What is it about, and how did you develop the story?
So one of the things that actually Gonzo said on the show was we are blood of the indigenous and the conqueror, and I found that really interesting. And because he was saying that at a time where I was doing a lot of research on Yaqui history, and the Yaquis can be traced to the Spanish invasion. And so you're inevitably going to learn about the conquistadors coming in and killing all the indigenous people with war. They raped, they killed, they pillaged, they burned, their way to where we are now. And the idea of Helm Greycastle is, what if the Aztecs and what if the Mesoamerican people defeated the Spanish and they had a chance to thrive a little longer? And it's basically a kind of look into like this Aztec world becomes Wakanda, and they are self-insular, and there is kind of a distrust with the gods because their people almost died, so they are unsure like of themselves, of what they believe in. And Montezuma III is capitalizing on that and trying to dispel the gods and become like the only god. And Helm Greycastle and his gang are forced to go into this unknown world that they've never seen or been to before to rescue the only dragon blood. And while they're going to go into this mysterious land, they find, multiple Aztec gods, human sacrifice, also math, and they have the wheel because the Spanish came and brought the first wheel there. So what does an Aztec world with a wheel look like now, and how do they operate differently? And so Helm is a bit of a nomad himself, so he kind of finds himself at home, and maybe if he helps rescue the dragon and defeat Montezuma and helps these people kind of unite, maybe he can stay here and be amongst the Mexican people, or the Aztec Mexica people. So I developed Helm Greycastle because I was playing D&D with some friends, and I realized that I was the only person of color there, and I was the only Mexican there. And I was questioning why I've never heard of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's not marketed to Latinx people. It's not a thing, in my opinion. So I wanted to come up with an idea that goes, hey, how can this fantasy genre that I love through Lord of the Rings, Willow, Fables, Rat Queens from Image, and so many different Game of Thrones, you never see a Sancho there, or Yolanda with Jon Snow. It's always super uber white,
Yeah.
and one black character. And so I wanted to flip it on its head and say, well, how do we make this plausible? The Aztecs believed in wizards. They sent wizards to the coast to stop Cortez. And what a horrible time to find out magic doesn't exist when a Spaniard is driving their metal sword that you've never seen before into your stomach and taking your village. They believed in multiple gods, and they all, like, one was fire and rain and life, and it's exactly like D&D. So why don't I make a mechanic of this? And one of the coolest draws, I think, is what makes this comic popular, is Tristan J. Tarwater is the RPG writer who did Rolled and Told. And I don't know if it was a popular book in your store.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember ordering it.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to that experience where the comic is more of an artifact and less of a collectible item. Jen Vaughn, who did a Goosebumps IDW book, she did the spot illustrations, and there's 2 maps on the inside, front and back cover. So I'm encouraging people to rip the interior pages out of the book so they can place some miniatures on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different take all together. That's kind of awesome.
Yes, encourage them
Yeah.
all to rip up their books, and I will keep mine intact, and then
Yeah.
I will sell it on eBay for $1 million.
Exactly. Make $1 million with the
Mhm.
book because there's less pieces intact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's 400 Things of Another World cover that Mauricio did. That's like, what if these characters were in Street Fighter? There's a 400 cover of 400 copies of the Kickstarter cover I did with Matt Emmons, who's doing a cool Gardner comic. He's at 990 backers right now. And it's very rare that I see a graphic novel or comic get to 1,000, and I'm very proud and excited for Matt because the book is amazing. He's going to be a huge talent, and I'm lucky that I got to meet him before it actually happened. So
What book was this again?
it's called Gardner by Matt Emmons on
okay.
Kickstarter, and there's like maybe less than a week. So if you want to support that, I think you should. So he did the Kickstarter cover for me, did an amazing job. And then we have the interior artists, Ramat Hondoko and Brian Valenza, who are doing the art. And then Claire Napier, who edited La Voz de M.A.Y.O, came back to edit for this book with me and then helped me write the book because I have a full-time job at Top Cow. So they're doing script assisting. And then I have Gabriella Downey, who lettered Harleen, the Stepping Cedric book. That was at DC. She's an incredible, amazing, talented, professional person who comes from like super corporate DC. So it's like nice to have somebody who's like very like upfront about what they need and what they're doing. And indie comics is usually pretty fly by the seat of your pants. So have someone who is very particular and is invested. And we have Becky Cloonan, who did a cover, David Lapham, my favorite cartoonist of all time. Well, you know, like I can literally get hit by a car while I'm on my bike and die happy knowing that David Lapham did something for me. I've done everything I've ever wanted to do in this industry.
That's amazing. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about that bonus one-shot RPG. Because I've seen this style of one-shot RPG, like from, I believe it's like not Strange Adventures. There was like 4 Kids Ride a Bike.
Mm-hmm.
4 Kids on a Bike. And so they've kind of released them as one-shot journeys, but they're usually a bit bigger than in the comic, and like a little bit more like rolled and told, like a full issue. So I kind of wanted to talk about why you decided to include it in the book instead of saying like, oh, like this is bonus content, and like you can either get this like as another like Kickstarter incentive prize, or you could have made the adventure just a bit longer and publish it in a separate issue. Why exactly did you want to include it inside the book itself?
Well, Jan, it's none of your business.
Fair.
Next question. No. I mean, honestly, I wanted to give an experience. So D&D, playing with my friends, has given me such a huge community, feel of community and family, because I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I live in, this is like my 5th or 6th year here in LA, and I am super, super honored that I have a family that I can call family. Like, these people saved my life, like I was on the road all the time, coming home, really not having a lot of people to be around, and I found a community once a week where we drink wine, eat cheese, play D&D, and just like really have a good time. And I still get to do that with my friends. And for this, I wanted people, and the idea was to hook a Latinx kid and be like, you belong in this space. Mm-hmm. Like, every time you play a video game, you got to start white. Every time you, like, every game, there's always like, there's just never you in it. So I wanted you to be able to create this read this story and feel like you can be in this story. And Tristan J. Tarwater, Latinx, Puerto Rican, writer who's just so funny and so cool, knows their stuff, I wasn't worried about getting tied up with D&D lawyer issues. Had a great, really just good mind of like how to play the game. We all tested the game, and that was fun to watch people do what you want them to do, and hopefully people have a good time. And I think like Die by Kieran Gillen and the amazing artist who I'm not, Stephanie, I think is her name. Like the book is great, but if you could play as the characters, then I think it'd be even better, you know, even though he is like developing a book and developing his own thing. But also, like, I don't know, I think it's just in my nature to do too much. Like La Voz de M.A.Y.O was too much. 4 years of research, 1 year of production, and yeah, now I needed to do something where a lot of things can go wrong. So that's the reason why I did it.
I love that. No, it's so great, especially like I've known about D&D, and I like listening to D&D podcasts, and I like watching some of my friends play it, but I personally have never played it because a lot of the friends who do play it are extremely white. They're white, and then I've just never seen D&D as a place that was for me specifically. I like watching them play, and I like hearing their stories, but I was just like playing it. Actually, I'm just like, oh no, no es para mí. Like, it's y'all can.
Yeah.
That seems to be y'all's thing. So
no, it's not. It's your thing too.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am super excited to try to play it. I've never played D&D except for once when I was in 6th grade or 5th grade, and my DM was a 4th grader, and it sucked.
Because they were a kid and they were like picking their nose and stuff.
And we had no idea.
Yeah.
We had no idea what was going on. We just heard about this amazing
personally.
game, and we were so excited to play it. And then I'm like, we're just sitting here and listening to you tell us stories and rolling dice. I was so over it.
Oh
but I've listened through Jen's recommendations, listened to Adventure Zone, and got so into that story and that podcast, it made me want to play. But I'm reading your book and knowing that I can be in that world and just exploring and adventuring in it, I actually am really looking forward to getting it. So
yeah, like you got to drink a lot, like you're in like Mesoamerica, Aztec world, like you are. This is and Tristan was taking a class about this, so it is super involved and very in depth, very educational. I mean, it's something I want to do in all my work. I like to call this a dog treat for people, where it's like, oh, this is fantasy and swords, and it's called Helm Greycastle. Like, you don't have to like pronounce a Mexican word or something, and then I just like throw it in the middle. And down my throat.
Now that you mentioned that, guys out there, it's on my pull list at Heidi Ho Comics. But fortunately, Henry sent us a courtesy PDF copy to read, and so one of the things I noticed that Montezuma laughs in Spanish. He doesn't laugh with the H-A-H-A-H-A. He laughs at the J-A-J-A. And I love that.
I love that. Yeah. Like, it's so funny that you
good.
mention it, because when I was reading the comic and I saw that, like in my brain, I immediately was like, Spanish. Like, I heard like Spanish laughter, like my dad laughing kind of thing. And so as I was reading it, and it's those little quirks that because unless you like know Spanish Twitter and stuff like that, or you yourself speak Spanish, you don't know that that's how you spell laughing in Spanish. And I found that I was like it didn't really occur to me, but like in my head I was like I like flipped it to Spanish, and then I kept writing it in English. But yeah, like I love that you included that.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a first introductory issue to the crew that we're going to follow if people are interested enough, and then we go into this world, and in like RPG D&D fashion, you don't get all the answers questioned in your first session. You get random pieces of information, and then you ask these questions, and in your next game, a lot of things get filled in. So, it is a 40-page comic. Like, it is a big comic, and I hope people dig it.
It's quite a hefty first issue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's why it's $5.99. I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be cheaper, but for cost to print it, cost to pay everybody,
Yeah.
and it did really well, FOC. So I'm really
Yay.
honored.
So you've mentioned in other interviews that writing Helm Greycastle for you was very empowering. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Yeah. So I growing up an hour from the border from Mexico was, painted as the scary place where racists and rapists and murderers and every horrible anchor baby is coming, and you don't hear a lot of positive things coming from Mexico. And being an hour away from Mexico, traveling there on the weekends as a kid and getting my picture taken on donkeys and seeing like really old architecture and eating amazing food. Like I wanted to do something that informed people about this rich history that was stolen from us. Like this is very, I don't speak Spanish. I can read and understand it sort of, and I get a lot of flack for that, but my people didn't speak Spanish. They spoke Nahuatl, and learning that and learning how beautiful that language was, learning about, the culture, the history, the black and white stuff. It was very gratifying. And I never graduated college. I'm pretty uneducated. So I'm very, happy when I can make comics into something that helps me develop intellectually, because I think that's when I'm sad or when I'm not doing well is when I'm not like learning and reading about things. And so that helped me, learn more about myself that wasn't taught to me when I was in school or through my family, because a lot of Mexican immigrants and people that are identify as Mexican don't want to be seen as Mexican because they're often seen as uneducated. They've been to prison. A lot of stereotypes come with that. So I think that's why I'm so articulate in English. I'm not really that articulate, but like you wouldn't, if you're listening to me, you wouldn't think of a non-card carrying indigenous Mexican person. Like I'm very lucky that I sound the way I sound. So I have that privilege, and I'm lucky as a guy who has been working for Top Cow for 5 years, gets to fumble in the dark and like get better by using my craft and sharing that with the world.
It's so funny that you should say that, you're not educated and you didn't go to college, but my God, you did 4 years of research for
I
the
know.
La Voz de M.A.Y.O. Like, dude, you got it. Like, you're fucking smart. Sorry. I mean, you do your homework, and and it shows. I mean, you're very detail oriented, and for you to just come here and say you're uneducated, I don't believe you, because you did fucking 4 years of research for your comic book that it shows. You even put it in the back section of the comic, showing all the stuff you ran across and everything. I mean, dude.
Yeah, I think
that's awesome.
I mean, I'm an idiot, but like not that dumb. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of power in what Albert Einstein said, where you haven't achieved true knowledge until you admit you know nothing. So when I say I'm stupid, I mean, I don't know how the electricity is going through the light right now. And like, I don't know how I'm able to stream to you and talk to you.
Magic as far
it's
as
all
I'm
magic.
concerned.
So I really don't know anything. And I'm lucky that a lot of people that knew a lot of stuff shared their research so I can echo it. And everything's just done. We're all just like mimicking everything we've ever said and heard. So nothing's original.
Not only that, I feel like because like you don't need to like finish school and stuff like that to really like know or do research and stuff like that. And I think it's the weight of academia itself as well certainly plays a factor in how you perceive things as well. So I think that it's very nice that you're not constantly like, oh my God, how will my peers view this kind of thing? It's just so like, man, fuck them. They don't fucking know shit.
Yeah, I'm not good at kissing ass, and I don't give a shit. So I just
Mhm.
like, yeah, that I could not thrive in that environment unless I was like a
Mhm.
teacher who got to teach how to writing comics, and no one ever told me what to do. Like, I'm really
Mhm.
bad with authority.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
academia is it's also very, very, very white as
Yeah,
well.
it's,
So
and you know,
it's
like if you're in it, great. Like you learn
Mhm.
discipline, you know, and it's really important that we have people that can document this stuff properly, like Frederick Aldama and William. Like
Mhm.
those are two prime, and Teresa Rojas, Dr. Teresa Rojas. Like those are exemplary people that don't use their academia to like make anyone feel inadequate, and they're very accommodating and very you know, inclusive. So I just didn't have the money, and I wasn't smart, and I didn't have like book smart, and I didn't have. I'm not a card carrying Native American, so school was not going to be free for me. They were going to have to make me pay to learn, and I did not do that. But you know, like I can, you know, I'm just really lucky that La Voz de M.A.Y.O is included into the museum in a lot of museums and libraries and schools. So I do know one thing about a couple things. So
Heck yes, heck yes. The colorist on the project, Brian Valenza, is also your co-creator. What
yeah.
is the process of working with a co-creator, and do you ever find it difficult to relay what you were trying to convey in your story? How is that, co-creating? I hear that a lot, and I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't even like people like telling me how to do my job.
Um, hold on. There's a. Can you hear that?
They're coming for you.
Oh, good. Yeah, you're gonna comment for me, coppers. So working with Brian Valenza, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have some friends and artists that want to draw indie stuff. Do you have any ideas?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And I sent him Helm. I asked, "What genres do you want?" So I can craft these ideas I have into a thing that you want. So they asked for fantasy and superheroes, and I did a pitch called Helm Greycastle, which is, you know, pretty inspired by my D&D character that I was writing at the time. And I was like, well, what if this happened? And he said, yeah, and got me connected with Ramat Hondoko, who's an amazing penciler. We're only taking his pencils and Brian's coloring over them. Brian has been such a chill co-creator. The reason why he's considered a co-creator is because he approached me and found Ramat. So I'm very lucky that Brian took a chance on me. And we also have another pitch in the works. Hopefully, we can get started on that when Helm is done in June. And then, yeah, so like Brian is a color, one of the best colorists in comics right now, I think. And he is a smart person, and I think it's very cool that he's doing his best to keep a lot of irons in the fire, because the collaboration is key. You know, like Ramat is not English speaking, so we're doing our best to make sure that we're writing in a fashion that really dictates everybody's movements. As to where Gonzo, I would say, people in a club were at a thing. Like he knew what I wanted and was
Yeah.
really like, I think Gonzo, I mean, I'm very lucky. Like I always say this, but like Gonzo is a cinematographer. Like you've talked to him, he will talk at length about everything, and it's just so detail oriented, and is so good at like picking moments that shine. And so we're a little with Helm Greycastle. There's a little bit more direction, which is cool. Like I'm okay with that. Um and Ramat is just like really like drawing some beautiful stuff. And we're in issue 2, we're going to see more indigenous Azteca people, and that's going to be fun to see. People just in their everyday lives, like what if they were still able to forage and party and, you know, be alive, and reimagine that group. And a lot of inspiration came from the Paul, I think his name is Paul Nugent, but it's like big red comics or something. There is a special thank you in the in our in the first issue, because he is drawing a like an Aztec comic, or he's writing one, and there's a lot of references that you can't find because all that stuff was burned down. You know, there's a lot of like,
Yeah.
what would a bedroom look
Yeah.
like? You know, like
Mhm.
having to really, you know, learn how the irrigation systems work. They had sky watching pools where they would look at the ground and trace, you know, the astrology that way. And it's like interesting to have to go, how do you tell that to someone who does not live in the United States, let alone Mexico, who probably has as much understanding as I do? So it has been a challenge to do something that hasn't been done before, which
Mhm.
I'm regretting now. There's a reason why no one's done an Aztec comic.
Finding information and valid information that isn't locked away behind academic journals that you have to pay for is very, very difficult. I know that experience and that struggle as well in like the research department. But I want to say that the artwork that is in how and how everyone's depicted and what they're wearing is absolutely beautiful. I really love it. I love the clothes. I love the artwork. I love how the people look. I love the variety. It's just, you did such an amazing job in like getting everything, and the artist as well. Like, you guys did a great job.
The comic's called Aztec Empire, Paul Gunin's Patreon, and it's to check it out, it's bigredhair.com. And we did our best to use that and other resources as a way to have our own stamp on it, but also be able to honor what might have actually looked like and have the creative license to do whatever we want. So yeah, thankfully the fantasy stuff is easy for Ramon. It's just, you know, getting accurate depictions of these people, because we want to honor these people. Like you know, Apocalypto is the only Aztec movie I can point to anybody, and that was written and directed by a racist Australian guy. You know, and one of the biggest things about this book is having somebody of Latino heritage with my dad from Mexico, and who knows how far that goes back. Barajas means cards, gambler, so I can only imagine what might come from a line of like gambling, you know, sharks and people that got in too deep. So like, you know, maybe Barajas and Aztecs were like, they just owed a lot of gold or cocoa or tobacco leaves to people. So just having fun with it and being able to say, hey, like, this is fantasy, this is all made up. I don't have to like tie myself to actual history about my great grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, and not have that pressure of honoring someone so close to me, and you know, and doing that. So there is some liberty and honor in it.
Yeah, man. All I gotta say is that I just want to own a headpiece, a feathered headpiece, like it, and wear it while having dinner. Like that was perfect. I love that scene in the.
The
Yeah,
pomp
they
and
ate turkey.
circumstance.
Yeah, that was a wild bird. That was, you know, a wild bird that they commonly hunted. Corn is basically from Mexico. So, yeah. So it's like, just like, yeah, they're just eating together, like mafioso types. Like,
Yeah.
you see
so
these
cool.
like giant gods always holding a like woman on the pyramid.
Yeah.
And there's like lava, and it's on the lowrider, and there's like, like I just want to see him eat.
I love that.
It was very humanizing moment. So you hinted a little bit of something that you and Brian had something in the works, but it is time for Chisme. Are there any other stories, comics, projects that you are working on currently that you haven't shared, or that you would like to share, or that you can share? Because I know sometimes you have something, but you can't say anything about it.
But you can tell us. We won't tell anyone.
Yes, you can tell us. We won't say anything.
That's one of my things I miss about seeing you at cons and learning of all the gossip. Because you know everything. Who's dating who? Like TMZ.
Who got into what?
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
Gods, I miss finding out information like that.
So the next thing I did was with Nikki Rodriguez. We did a story for to benefit the only I think it's like only one of the only Latina owned bookstores in
Ooh.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so we did a story about, it's called Surviving Camino del Diablo, where a kid it goes to her and her family try to immigrate into the United States, but she gets left behind with the mom because the dad was the only one that can afford to go. So he takes the baby, and this little girl and her mom has to stay. And when it comes time for them to go back, the mom doesn't go with her, so she goes alone. And she kind of finds a mentor, and it's told through the perspective of her as in present day as a immigration attorney, and she's helping
Oh wow.
a
Oh, wow.
family because their grandma is like the grandma is being deported, and they have to go and tell her that. And that was like me, you know, I've been wanting to tell a border crossing story for a long time, and I have another version of this same story that's more like Fast and Furious, like very outlandish and action, but I wanted to do something a little serious. So that's coming out. I don't know when. We sent the digital files to that. I sent it again this week, so hopefully that's, I forget the name of the company that's gonna put it out, but they're like a digital, they're a digital comics reader. Let's see, they are, hold on, globalcomics.com. So that's coming out through them, and Helm Greycastle comes out April 28th, and then every last week after that of the month. So we got two. I found a indigenous artist who's Navajo to do the second cover, Dale DeForest. I'm willing to bet $20 that they might be the only indigenous comics cover artist that week, probably month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucker
So
bet.
yeah, so I'm willing to bet that. And then the cover B is going to be Stephen Sejic, as he did a variant virgin cover, and there is no trade dress. It's really amazing, and
Nice.
he did it in between making Harleen and not a Harleen, Sunstone. And he's so funny. We had such a great morning talking. If you go to the Top Cow video, like we did a live stream, I've been doing these live streams, and we have a good time talking about his new series, or the new volume to his series.
He is so talented. I love his artwork.
Writes, draws, letters, colors, everything. Really one of the greatest comic book storytellers of all time, probably. Let's see, other story that I'm working on is it's called Outlaw Country, and it's what if the Lone Ranger's daughter was the most wanted criminal, and she has to bring her into justice. And it's set in a like Western futurism of, like, you know, told you know, vaqueros and black cowboy people, you know, in the Southwest, because that was a really big thing. And it's like there's this woman called the Black Widow, or her husband died, and she became the sheriff, and then like a mass sheriff. And this is in a time where heroes are dead, they're considered passe, they're not cool, everyone wants to be the bank robber. So you have this like the only one who's trying to do the right thing, and her daughter, who was her sidekick, becomes, it's like, what if Nightwing became the Joker? Like, how do I stop that, but also help the one I love? And it's drawn by Chloe Giroux. She did the cover B for Helm Greycastle #3, and for Helm Greycastle #3, we have two women artists, Both of them have never been published before. Chloe Giroux
Damn.
is a student out of a art school in New York that is world renowned, and I'm for some reason spacing on the name. And Gabby Downey has been a letter artist and production artist at DC Comics for like 7 years, and they would never give her a chance. And I wanted to give her a chance, so she did cover A for that, and then we got Ramat doing cover B of 4, and then this guy named Bjorn. You might recognize his art, Kristen and Sarah, or everybody, because he's been doing a lot of Spawn covers. He's doing like super graphic. He did one of like the Christmas, like Clown is Christmas, like Santa recently.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's a huge Spawn artist now. So I met him before he got big, and he did me a huge favor, and he did an amazing cover 4.
Nice.
That's
I can't wait to see all these covers in person, in real life, instead of the little nail on my computer. Thumbnail on my computer.
Right.
I'm ordering. Well, you've already shared a lot of projects of creators that you really want to garner support for. It is time for Juntos y Fuertes, so you know that it's our segment where we highlight noteworthy endeavors by members of marginalized groups that we think deserve support. So we'd like to ask you, are there any projects or programs other than the ones you've already shared that you'd really like to plug?
Oh yeah, Julio Aneta, Home, that's coming out this week on the 14th, I believe. That's really exciting. Alex Segura's his new Kickstarter. It's Dark City, I think is what it's called. Just huge. Really excited. Hold on, let me. The Dusk. That's what it's called. The Dusk on Kickstarter. Leona Kangas just came out with number 2 of their second issue called I think it's called True Cult. It's about kids that work at a cult restaurant, and really fun, like old 90s kind of stuff. That's been a fun one. Oh, I've been reading Alex Tomein's The Lonely Life of a Cartoonist, and it's black and white Asian American comics artist who wanted to be the next Steve Ditko, and got it, and then like every year is like he's at San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, he's at different shows and having these most awkward moments, like when I hugged Kristen and she didn't recognize me at Comic-Con Ontario.
This guy is coming up to me and he's like, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi," and then he goes to hug me, and I'm like, I literally like stiffened up and like went back, and then he starts talking a little more. I was like, "Oh." That's funny.
Yeah, Eddie was like, he was ready to throw hands.
And I mean, just bringing that memory up, it just reminded me of other stuff you've done for the podcast. You were the one who tweeted the piñata, the Jessica Cruz piñata, and tagged Sam Humphries, and that's how we were able to interview Sam Humphries on the show. Also, I also remember walking into, I think it was Long Beach Comic Con, and I was wearing my Comadres y Comic shirt, and you're like, "I listened to you guys," and I was like, "Oh my God, we're famous!" Like for a moment, I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm famous!"
You are.
But yeah, I mean,
I donated the Witchblade beer, and I was like, "Don't tell people I gave it to you if you hate it, because you love talking shit." All 3 of you.
That is so true.
I believe we did we like it? I'm trying to remember.
I liked it.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
It was a stout.
Yeah.
There you go. That I definitely did like it.
And it's like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, there's so many cool things going on in comics. It's a real exciting time. Like a year ago, it wasn't. Porn Sack, he has a new book called The Good Asian coming out. We also have
Sorry, I cannot hear that name or say that name without giggling.
oh, Pornsack is an amazing guy. You got to meet him. You got to have him at your shop. Jeremy is doing Made in Korea. That I got to read, and it's one of those books as a creator you read and you're kind of like man, F you for being so good. Jeremy Holt, where you're just like, oh, like you haven't been in this long as me. You have like what gives you the right to make a book this good, Made in Korea. Amazing.
Where can you find that one?
On Image Comics.
Oh, right on. Cool. Right on. And what about The Good Asian?
Image Comics.
Oh, right on. Cool.
Yeah.
All of these are from Image, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I'm not going to promote any more publishers anymore. Like, I'm done. No, like I used to try to be cool, but I'm not cool anymore. 2021, Henry. I'm like bad Pee-wee, you know, like I'm a loner. Dottie, like.
You're making me laugh.
Oh, and she hurts when she laughs.
I know. I'm sorry. I promise not to make you laugh.
Oh, you know what you haven't talked about is Contrary to Henry. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, first of all, I love the name. I was
Really?
like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I loved it.
I know Kristen was like, why isn't it according to Henry?
But I like the story behind it.
Yeah.
Tell our
So the story is I used to work at the Tucson Weekly as an editorial digital editor. So we just watched the internet waiting for something bad to happen. And spoiler alert, something bad happens every day in Tucson that's worth writing about. So whenever any store closes or any restaurant closes, it's like huge news. Like in any community, like even in LA. So there was a downtown Tucson's not big, and there's this Thai restaurant which I never went to. I don't know why. No one ever told me to go there. But they were closing down, so I had to like sadly report this restaurant, which I'm not going to name, says they're closing down. They go on Facebook and they're like, we're still open, and then at the end of it says, contrary to Henry Barajas, we are still open. So whenever I go out in public, everyone saw this because it was on Facebook.
Oh my God.
People would be like, contrary to Henry Barajas, I'm going to have a beer. Or like something stupid. And they had to lock the doors. Like there was keypads on the doors. Like they're not open if you can't go in and eat.
Yeah.
So so I was known for the guy who like didn't know, or we didn't know, or it wasn't like my integrity was in question because they said they were still open. So I was like hell-bent on meeting this woman and being like, why did you say that? But never had. She always dodged me. She probably were standing next to each other at a grocery store once. But so when it came time, I used to do radio. And I love interviewing people and I love talking to friends like this. And I wanted to do something where like, I don't have a committed date. You don't have to like go to a website. It's on your Facebook page. It's on your Twitter. You just hit play. Like it's on and I'm not going to like tell people about it. Like, I'm not going to say like, I'm not like, it's just like, I don't want to be committed to this because I know how much work this is and I respect what you all do. And if you don't do it every week on a certain time, you lose people. And I don't want to have to like look at stats and I don't want to have to like upload things. I just want everything to be live. I want to cancel myself. This is what I'm trying to do.
So what kind of things do you talk about on Contrary to Henry?
Well, I mainly have comic book creators on and we talk about their projects. We talk about what they're putting out there. We talk about the industry. We talk about our personal lives. We talk about, I always talk about politics. I always talk about how white people wronged us. It's just the same.
So what you're saying is if our listeners want to listen to you, they have to basically just stare at their Facebook until miraculously one of your videos shows up.
It's like a satellite spinning around the world. And if you look up and you see it,
You're the lucky one that did.
Oh, my next
Like
question
looking
is,
for the
It's on
ISS.
YouTube. It's on YouTube, Twitter, and
Okay, good.
Facebook.
Okay, cool. Because that was my next question. I mean, I saw it on Facebook, and I wasn't sure if they weren't your friends, could they see it? You know.
Yeah, I also don't want strangers watching this. I want
But it's
I-
okay, so it's cool.
it's
All right.
public, but
Okay.
I don't want to like.
Advertise it.
Yeah, I don't want
Okay.
new. I don't want new friends. I have too many friends. Good.
All tapped out.
All tapped out. I'm done with new. I don't want to know any new people.
Awesome.
And Facebook is technically the obituaries these days. Like every
Yeah.
time I
Yep.
open it, someone died, their dog died, someone's sick.
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, why did I?
Yeah. DMX passed
Oh,
away.
I know.
I know, I saw that.
R.I.P.
No,
Yeah.
he's still alive.
Okay.
Apparently, yeah, because Rip DMX was trending, and then his publicist came out and said, like, no, he's not dead yet.
Oh.
I mean,
On death's
Oh.
He's in a
door.
vegetated state. You know, it's just one of those things where like we're not going to get the same guy
Yeah.
if he returns, unfortunately. I mean, maybe, who knows? I don't know. Like that's the air of mystery, but also DMX is legendary. His music will live on. It will make every Deadpool movie look cool. Like all his songs are used for all the trailers. Like
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for DMX.
Absolutely.
He lives on.
He does.
He's not here, but he lives on.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, Henry, it's been awesome chatting with you. I'm so glad you put out this book. I really am enjoying it a lot. I love the artwork.
Thank you.
I love all the Spanish words, or I don't even think it's Spanish. What is it? Help me out
There's
here.
Spanish and Nahuatl.
No,
There's-
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it. You're always super welcome to come back. We just love your energy. We love what you're doing. So we really like to thank you for being here. And this has been Las Platicas 2.0 with Henry Barajas. We have been your hosts. I'm Sarah.
Aren't we gonna let Henry plug himself of where he can?
Oh my God, I was
Fine.
thinking about that. Oh my God. Oh my God. You guys help me out. Help me out.
I was gonna do it at the end, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, we are here sadly at the end. So please share with us and our listeners where we can find you on the internets, where your projects and future projects live, your social media, all that stuff, so that we can slide into your DMs.
You can find me on my bike in the streets of Los Angeles.
It's
That's
true.
where I mainly am. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. At Henry, it just says Henry Barajas. I manage the Top Cow stuff as well. So if you go through Top Cow, that's where you can find Helm Greycastle through Image and Top Cow, and at your local comic shops. And I'm also at your libraries and under your bed.
And can you just remind us one more time the date that Helm Greycastle is hitting the shelves?
April 28th.
Cool. Right.
That's a
on.
Wednesday, folks.
It's a Wednesday. Go to your comic shop. If not, do subscription, mail order service, pick up.
Put on your-
Comixology,
Mhm.
Google Play. It's on all
Any
that
place
stuff.
that you can get comics, it'll be
Thankfully.
there.
Yeah.
And Mochi said, I love it.
She has.
All right. So that brings us to the end of this Las Platicas 2.0. We have been your host. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
And I'm Henry Barajas. And please like and subscribe.
Yay.
Bye, guys. Thank you.